Welcome back to the Suffering Sports Fan Podcast. Dad and son, lifelong Dolphins fans, miserable together. The first 3 weeks of the season have now gone by, and the Dolphins sit at 0-3, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So thanks for joining us. We could have a lot of stuff to get to, but I feel like this will be a relatively quick rant sesh over some of the things that have gone wrong with the Dolphins so far this season. Plain and simple, for a first thoughts kind of thing, like this is not the same Dolphins offense that we've seen in the past. Mike McDaniel, when he first came to Miami, had this offense guns a-blazing. 2 years ago, Tua led the league in passing yards. Tyreek and Waddle, both 1,000 yards on that season, the best running attack in football. A lot of that now conventionally nowhere to be seen. And it has resulted in three pretty disappointing losses to kick off 2025.
Yeah, it's we were hoping that the first two games, we knew the schedule was going to be tough. We
Right.
were hoping that the first two games were sort of winnable. One was at home. We usually win in September at home against a Patriots team that seemed beatable.
Yep.
We were saying, I remember in our first podcast, we said if we start 0-2, we know where the season is heading, and
Right.
it seems that that's what's going on. Yeah, it's just the worst possible beginning to a season you could imagine. I mean, there's many reasons to look at for blame, and I think each game offers its own set of blame. To be honest, I think. Um, you know,
Sure.
I I feel like well, do you want to start with the first few games, or do you want to start with talking about last night
Yeah,
because we're doing this the
let's
day
talk
after the
about
Buffalo
yeah,
game?
let's talk about the Bills game on Thursday Night Football. Like you said, we're doing it right after, and this is the most life we've seen out of Miami.
Yeah.
I was asked by all my friends here up at school, who a lot of them from the New York area, more familiar with the Bills and they are with the Dolphins. Some are Bills fans, and they asked me, Adam, what's your honest prediction for tonight? And I said, well, there's two things. Number one, the Dolphins always play well in Buffalo. They do. Last year, they lost on a game-winning field goal. The year before that, they lost on a game-winning field goal. They had one game in the cold a couple years ago. I think it might have been either 2 or 3 years
Oh,
ago,
it was also a field goal game.
where they almost won that game, and then Josh Allen he left too much time on the clock, and they're going to go down and score. And that's exactly what happened again last night. That was the first thing. They always play good in Buffalo. Number two, it's Thursday Night Football, and we know Tua's history on Thursday Night Football. It's not good, and it does not matter whether the team is the Bills or whether it's one of the worst teams in the league. Um, it's not pleasant. At least that's not what history has been like. And so my logic was we either win by 1 point or we lose by 45. And I really didn't think that there was an in between. And if we go and look at that game and especially how it started, they were going back and forth, and that, prediction of them playing well in Buffalo stood. It was tied 14-14 at halftime, which I don't think any Dolphins or Bills fan, after the way that the first 2 weeks of the season went for both teams, for that the score to be at halftime. Coming out of the break, the Bills scored, the Dolphins matched, and it was kind of back and forth for a lot of that game. We saw the Dolphins getting defensive stops that they'd yet to get all season, and they held Josh Allen to a relatively quiet game from him. He was still elite. He was still great. He made all the plays he needed to make, but it was quiet. It wasn't a loud Josh Allen, I'm going to run all over you type of performance. And I think that was fine with what we saw from the Dolphins last night, especially on defense. The issue comes in offense late in the game. Tua proved in the past that he could be that guy to lead a game-winning drive. My brain goes right back to that Cowboys win a couple years ago. 2-minute drill, bang, we get down the field, kick a game-winning field goal. So far this season, they can't seem to put a play together when it matters most. And in the crucial moments of last night's game, they get the ball back after forcing a punt on third down for Buffalo. They go 3 and out right away. Tua takes a sack, and they made another stop and get the ball back once again with an opportunity to tie it, going potentially forcing an overtime or a final opportunity to get the ball back later on. And Tua throws that interception, which has been costly, leading the league in turnovers right now at this point. An inaccurate type of risky play that we've never seen from him. And that's disappointing because he's known as this
Well,
guy who's accurate, can thread the needle. And I don't know if it's the play design or if it's McDaniel or him, and we can continue to talk about that stuff. It's just disappointing to see because it wasn't always how it was. And you can put a lot of blame on a lot of different people for the first 3 games of the season. We can talk about some of them, but last night, Tua lost them that game.
yes, I think there's an interesting, and I sent this to you. There's an interesting video that Kurt Warner did analyzing that last interception, where he blames it on the play design, and the
Sure.
play design has to do a certain thing to pull the linebacker in a certain direction, and a lot of the Mike McDaniel offense that a lot of people talk about and discuss is that a lot of it is Tua has to throw to a spot and hope the receiver's there. I think he's put in a position a lot of times where he does that without thinking, oh no, that play's covered. Now we will never know as people that don't play and aren't at practice and are whatever who's at fault really there. We only
Right.
know what our eyes tell us, and our eyes tell us you threw it straight to the guy. And that's what
How
it looks like.
However, what I will say, and I think there have been a couple examples of this, especially against the Patriots and now against Buffalo, where we saw plays happen where Tua is looking one way, the pocket collapsed. We saw it multiple times against the Bills. I was tweeting it out, kind of jokingly and sarcastically, poking fun at all the Dolphins fans who have kind of turned against Tua over the past year. But he had multiple plays against the Bills on crucial third downs where he juked a pass rusher out of their socks and ran for a first down and slid. Like, he was agile. He was making plays. He had a couple throws on the run where he hit Tyreek, where he hit Waddle that led to important first downs, which ultimately kept the game within one score for the majority of it, right? Like, he was making plays last night. It's not that he's not capable. It's just, and this is something that we at length have talked about privately, is that how do you go from an offense as spectacular as the one 2 years ago to this one? They don't look the same. It's and to me,
Well,
it's eye test and play design. The offense is so complicated. Every other team, including the Bills, even the worst teams in the NFL, the tight ends, people run slants, people run posts. It's not all these fancy motion plays where the tight end has to run in front of the center to fake like they're getting the snap. Random stuff like that on this offense happens all the time. I don't understand why it can't be somewhat simplified. I know they want to try and trick the defenses and do some cool things on offense. We understand that. You can do that with a more simplified approach. That's why so many other teams have constant success and not these struggles and peaks and valleys that the Dolphins offense continues to go through.
yeah, I mean, I think there's parts that are of McDaniel last night that were good, and then there's
Yeah.
parts that show up that are continually baffling. So one is, I think he's realized what Tua can or cannot do a little bit more. Tua's clearly regressed in terms of throwing the ball downfield, and his arm strength doesn't seem to be the same. I don't know what it is. We've always been Tua supporters. Something looks off this year. He's not the same guy. There was a deep out that was like maybe 20 yards
To
downfield
Tyreek, and it
that
went over his head.
it
Yeah.
took forever to get there.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't remember having those problems. I know he's had his issues with throwing the ball downfield. That ball downfield to Tyreek, it hit him in the hands for what it
Right.
was worth.
Right.
But there were passes like that out that I'm talking about that just, man, that was a terrible throw.
Yeah.
And if he gets it there faster, that's a catch. So
Sure.
I don't know what it is. I'm not ready to throw Tua completely out yet, but there's cause for concern.
Sure.
The other problem is
100%.
I think the way the sort of game went, coaching, both coaches actually were smart. If you're the Bills,
They're very,
if
very
you're
smart.
the Bills, you know the only way we lose this game to the Dolphins is if we turn over the ball, if we do something stupid, if we make mistakes. So what do? The longest pass Josh Allen completed was 10 yards. He
Yep.
didn't throw deep. He didn't do anything crazy.
Yep.
They ran the ball down our throats.
Right.
And let's be honest, if there was more than 25 seconds left on the clock at the end of the game,
And it was
Buffalo
tied
was
there.
gonna
Right.
Buffalo was
They're
gonna go
winning
down
game.
the field and they were gonna kick a game-winning field goal. Literally, the only way the Dolphins win that game is if we score a touchdown with the ball, and with like no time left, we go for 2 and we win. That
Yeah.
was probably the game plan, because there's no way we were stopping
But
Deshaun, because if they
but
really
again,
wanted to, they could have done anything.
that speaks to
Wait,
history, right? They play good in Buffalo and then they end up losing. That's what happens all the
yeah,
time.
the other thing with the Dolphins is where I'll give Mike McDaniel finally a little bit of credit. He, on the other hand, said, "Well, how can we beat Buffalo if we don't control the clock, and if we don't do long, sustaining drives? That gives the Bills more chances to score.
Yeah.
I know my defense can't stop them, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to dink and dunk. We're going to run the ball a lot more, finally. We're going to use Ollie Gordon." They did some things. So
Ollie Gordon looks great. He looks great.
Tua threw for like 3 yards a pass or something silly. And they ran the ball a lot, and they controlled the clock. So I think both coaches played into a game plan that made a lot of sense. And it ended up being a pretty good game. Now, what the Dolphins do? The Dolphins always dolphin. That the roughing the punter thing was ridiculous. Cost us. I think that cost us the game.
Cost us 2 games.
And then of course the interception from Tua. The thing about that play is, okay, the linebacker's there. The linebacker should have moved. Tua should have thrown it better. Tua threw it to the right place. Whatever it all is. If you look at that play, it's a stupid play. You're inside the 20. You want to kill some clock, first of all, and at the most that pass gets you what, 5 yards?
Right. I mean, there were 2 if that doesn't get picked off, and
you're throwing into triple coverage over where you can't see to gain 5 lousy yards, maybe. Sure. It's a dumb decision. It's a dumb play call. The whole thing is dumb. At that point, you know what you need. You continue running the ball, or you only throw to wide open, safe guys. There's no reason for that play. Right. And so that's the good and bad of Mike McDaniel. He's so defiant. He's so going to do his offense and his play calling that at the end of the games, his play calling is as bad as Tua is bad.
Yeah, 1,000%. 1,000%. And at some points, his team is undisciplined, right? I mean, we could talk about Tua and McDaniel and the offense all day, but there's smaller things that cost the Dolphins games. And every time they have success, at any point in their history, you said Dolphins, and they do some things that are just dumb. You look at just this season so far. Now they're 0-3. Go back to that Week 1 game against the Colts, right? It was 10-0, and we forced the punt. Finally, there was a stop, and boom, roughing the punt.
Yes, you're right. We did force the punt, and then we roughed the punter.
Correct. Yeah, there was roughing the punter.
Because we didn't actually stop them the whole rest of the game.
Correct. They literally scored on every possession. But the only reason that stat is still true is because we gave them the opportunity to score. And guess what? They scored like 2 plays later, right?
And no one roughs the punter in the league.
Nobody.
We've
and
done
it's only
it twice in 3 games.
We've done it twice. Twice in 3 games on crucial third down stops, after crucial third down stops that have then gotten the other team into scoring position. The Bills end up last night 28-21, putting the game out of reach. If they get that stop there and get that and just take the punt return back like normal, fair catch, whatever, at least you kill some time off the clock or something. At least you're giving yourself an opportunity. Sure. So that's costly in itself. Then we can continue to look at this Bills game last night. I talked about Tua's ability to run out of the pocket earlier. Thought he did a really good job of that last night. He handled the offense for most of the game very, very well, back to the typical fast-paced kind of quick screen play Dolphins offense that has worked in the past. By the way, the screenplays have gotten too much. They're ridiculous. He almost killed Devon Achane last night, but we can get to that later. It was the worst I've ever seen in my life. However, the offensive line continues to be an issue. They lost the Patriots.
They played better.
They lost the Patriots game in Week 2 because on both second, third, and fourth down, Tua either had to throw it away or take a sack. They literally could not do anything. He had to continue to escape the pocket against the Patriots, and nothing worked. Week 1, very similar thing. He had no time to throw. And then again, last night, when the Dolphins finally have a big play, they have an opportunity to take the lead in this game and go up 28-21 on the other end. And what happens? Oh, illegal man downfield, Jonah Savaianaya, the new guard that the Dolphins drafted this offseason out of Arizona. Supposed to be this guy who already plays like a veteran, all these things. That's 2 illegal man downfield penalties in 2 consecutive weeks. He had one last week that cost the Dolphins a touchdown too, or a
Yeah,
scoring
he's
opportunity.
not been
I mean,
great.
I'm not look, pass protection is one thing, but if McDaniel wants these crazy special screenplays where he waits for the offensive line to move before you throw it and then they all block on the run, you gotta practice that at some point, because then that is costly and does not provide opportunities for you to win those games, right? So we talk about the play calling in itself, having to execute the right way, but it also goes to the really stupid stuff, like just you don't even have to bring 10 guys in to try and block the punt. Just keep them there. Like, you're better off returning the ball anyways. Keep your guys back and let them block. Don't try and rough the punter for 2 out of 3 weeks. I mean, it's a bit ridiculous at this point,
There
and
was
constant things we've seen over the years.
another thing that I thought was finally an improvement too is for most of his tenure, McDaniel, even if we win the kickoff, he defers to the second half, which I think has always been a mistake. The best thing on your team is the offense. He finally got the ball and ran, and we scored on the first drive. So you're leading in
Right.
the beginning of the game, and I
Yeah.
actually think that changed the entire tone of the game, and at least gave them some confidence. We can do
Yeah.
something in this game. They
It puts
blew it
some
like we knew
pressure.
that we blew it like we knew they would, but at least they were competitive. I think
Right.
that this game actually, if you just do it on its own, there was a lot of good
Oh,
outside of the
I think
usual.
last night, despite it being a loss, I know there's no moral victories, but I think last night was as much of a win as you can possibly have.
Well, it allows you it makes you feel like, okay, the next few games coming up, Jets, Browns, Falcons, Saints, a lot of those are coming
Sure.
up.
Right.
If you can reproduce yesterday against those teams, you might get some wins.
Right.
Maybe.
Right.
Now, the one
But
that
after
kills me,
losses to the Colts and Patriots,
all
you
bets
don't
are off.
know.
Well, let's go talk about those games a little bit.
Sure.
So just going back to the Colts game, um, this game to me is just they were not prepared. I don't think anyone played good.
Yeah.
Tua couldn't have saved them in this game. I
Nope.
think everything was terrible, and the defense just was not ready. You
Yeah.
can't let a guy like Daniel Jones go up and down the field, and it's just inexplicable. And I just don't know what happened in that game.
The defense couldn't get a sack. I mean, it was ridiculous. Bradley Chubb, I think, had one. He's had one in every game, but outside of him, I mean, that defense was non-existent. They were just torching the Dolphins all game long.
I don't think it's representative of how they're going to play all year. I
Me
think
neither.
more like the
They
last
they
we saw.
played
The offense,
they played great last night on a guy of Josh Allen who can run all over the place, and they got a few sacks and they played pretty well. But
so
that week one was terrible. Week one was terrible.
and as it turns out, the Colts might be half decent. They also beat a very good Broncos team and went
Yeah.
up and down the field against a very good Broncos defense.
Yeah. But
So
they got a lucky win there. They got a lucky.
I don't know what the Colts are, but certainly they're not terrible. That's all we can
Sure.
say. And
Yep.
I think the Patriots game, both pictures are of Tua getting sacked, ironically. The Patriots game is the one that's going to hurt. You should have won that one. That's a game
100%.
you win. That's a game we always win.
Now,
And the ending of that game, again, I don't know who's at fault at the ending of that game, but you finally get a punt return for a touchdown, and immediately your special teams craps on itself and gives up a kickoff
well, I
return.
mean, you
That's not okay. And then
yeah.
the 2-minute drive at the end, no one knows what they're doing. And I know it's easy to blame Tua, and I don't know if it's on Tua. Should Tua have gotten the people organized? Should he have said, "Screw you, McDaniel, I'm going to just do my own play"? I don't know, but they can't
Right.
get plays in. They can't not false start. They
Right.
can't not help themselves and move backwards.
Yeah.
It's just that's the kind of stuff where you look at the coach and go, "Do you even know what you're doing?" And I
Right.
don't know.
So I think the important thing to look at in the grand scheme of things is that I think people are especially Dolphins fans are constantly overlooking special teams right now. It's cost us games, like it really has. I mean, in that Colts game, in that
Possibly
Colts
two.
all three. I mean
All three.
That Colts game before the game even starts, Jason Sanders goes out. Now, what did that mean in the grand scheme of things? And for that game, probably not much. But early in the first quarter, the Dolphins did have an opportunity where they got across midfield. They could have tied the game or taken the lead, actually, because the Colts had kicked the field goal to kick things off. The Dolphins marched down the field. They had an opportunity, but they had no kicker. So on 4th and 3 or whatever it was, on the first drive of the game, maybe McDaniel does that anyways from their field position. But if you have Jason Sanders at any point in that opening game against the Colts and you have a kicker on the roster, you take a couple field goals and it's just a little bit better. The score looks a little bit better than it probably does, right? Also, the roughing the punter was bad. Week 2 against this game against the Patriots, offensive line was terrible, yes, but the Dolphins, for the first time in over 5 years, had their first punt return for a touchdown. The last time a Dolphins player returned a kick for a touchdown was Jakeem Grant against the Rams, Tua's NFL debut in that game 5 years ago. Then the very next play, not the next drive, not the next quarter, after the Dolphins returned a kick for a touchdown, the Patriots on the ensuing kickoff run it back 100 yards for a touchdown. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You need one stop. If they get a stop there, the Dolphins have the lead, you win that game. Respectfully, 1,000%. Because then you don't have to put the ball back in the hands of the Dolphins offense, which had struggled all day long. Yes, it made some plays, but still had those struggles. And then week 3, again, the roughing the passer penalty that gave the Bills their final score to, essentially put the nail in the coffin for that game. It's something that's incredibly frustrating. You got to fix the tiny things. You want to see some more out of this offense.
It's just that, you know what it is? They're the definition of a team that's finding ways to lose. They're just the definition of that. And I think can they right the ship and be competitive? I mean, playoffs seem like a non-possibility at 0-3. So I don't know if we can even worry about that. But look, the next 5 games, okay? New York at home, at Carolina, the Chargers at home, at Cleveland, and at Atlanta.
Right. I mean, you have an opportunity.
Can you come out of that? Can you come out of the first 8 games 4-4? Can you do that? Because if you come out of those 8 games 4-4, we're assuming the Chargers is going to be a loss.
Yeah.
Then maybe then I think at that point you say, okay, McDaniels is going to finish out the season. That'll be that.
Yeah.
And then you'll just see how it goes. I'm beginning to feel like this might be Tua's last year as starter. I know he's going to be on the team next year because of the contract.
Right.
I think you draft a quarterback next year, and maybe that quarterback sits while Tua plays one more year, or that quarterback just starts and Tua's the backup. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm beginning to feel like it's the beginning of the end for Tua. I hate to say that, but you just need more from that position. I like him. I think he does a lot of good things, but you need a guy that at the end is going to be a Josh Allen that's going to say, okay, we need one score. I'm not going to constantly screw it up. And he's constantly screwing it up.
Look,
and you just can't have it.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I think the contract's too big. I think Stephen Ross loves him, and as long as Chris Greer and McDaniel are there, I think they love him too. If they do draft a quarterback or decide to bring somebody else in, it's going to be the kind of, okay, we're going to have a training camp battle and everybody continues to play, but he's going to end up getting the start. I don't see them getting rid of him that fast. I mean, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl, for crying out loud, a career backup who led a team 1 year to a Super Bowl. I mean, random stuff happens all the time. Tua has proven that he can play this position. The issue is McDaniel. And honestly, I think this is a great way to wrap up here, because constantly over the past few years, he has found ways to lose these games. Now, again, I actually had a debate with all my friends in a group chat the other day. They were saying, oh, Tua loses games all the time. McDaniel doesn't lose his games. I said, are you kidding? You remember that Tennessee game a couple years ago that tanked the Dolphins season? You remember that game against the Chiefs in negative 30 degrees? The Dolphins only gave up 1 touchdown in that game, right? The Dolphins offense couldn't do anything. The play calling is terrible. The screen plays, all these things at crucial moments where you don't need to do the things that they did, right? Constantly loses these games. Hypothetically, and you bring up a good point, they have an opportunity to potentially start off the year 4-4. Now, you have to finally put a win together, and they've yet to prove that, so we can't say that, but hypothetically, they do.
Yeah, 4-4 is a stretch. They may not win one game out of them. Right. We don't know.
The halfway point of the year, before the next games that you mentioned, right after the Atlanta, they got the Bills, they got the Ravens, and they go to
Commanders.
Spain to play the Commanders. Jane Daniels is injured right now, but I'm assuming you have to assume he's going to be healthy for that game. Knock on wood,
That
he's a good
stretch is a
player.
brutal stretch.
And I just know for a fact that if you do not, they might lose all three of those games. But if you do not keep it at least somewhat competitive and put some wins together through the rest of the season and keep it somewhat competitive with their Bills/Ravens, one or the other, they're not going to win both. They're not
And
going to
then
keep competitive.
I do want to say again, we're
That-
looking ahead, obviously, and we may be terrible that we may not win any games. But
That
after
flight,
Washington, after
that
Washington,
flight from Washington is going to be the longest flight of all time.
well, they have a bye week after that, but after that, they got again a bunch of you'd think winnable games. We don't know how the season's going to shake out, injuries and whatnot, but it's Saints, Jets, Steelers, Bengals now without Burrow, so and then you finish Tampa Bay, which is tough, and New England. So I don't know. I mean, it was a team that's on 3 and that's looked how they've looked. You can't see anything. Yeah. But here's the thing. I mean, I think if they're 4-4 at the midway point, like I said, McDaniel gets to finish out the season. Tua finishes out the season. Hopefully he's healthy. You see where it goes. Probably, maybe they finish 500 at best. If they lose, if they're 1-7 or 0-8, then I think McDaniel gets fired midseason. So it can go any which way, and we'll see. We don't know.
Stephen Ross has had this unquestioned type of loyalty to the Dolphins front office and coaching staff. I mean, the first coach he really let go, I feel like at a time where they might have been on the up, was Brian Flores. And that was kind of a shock to people. And ultimately we found out there was, leadership stuff going on in the building, but Gase even was here for too long. Joe Philbin stuck around for too long. Stephen Ross finds people and likes to stick it out. Unfortunately, you're in an age of the NFL where if it's not working or you miss your window, like the Dolphins did in 2023, where you have a quarterback who was maybe at the peak of his career at that point, one of the best offenses the league had ever seen. I mean, they put up 70 points, 50 points. And if you miss your window, and you choke, and then the next year your quarterback goes down with a concussion and you're done with another season, I don't know if you blow it up, but you need to make an executive decision on what to do for the future. And I will never sit up here and call for a coach's job. I loved Mike McDaniel his first 2 years. Last year, the quarterback situation was frustrating. You can't put it all on him. But there was also something with the play calling here that is weird, and you don't go from that spectacular offense we saw 2 years ago to what we're seeing now. Well, he knows Tua and he knows this offense. He has to get it together, or else it might be the end.
What would cause a McDaniel return?
If the Dolphins had mediocrity,
a winning record, if they finish 9-8, if they finish
8-9, he's back.
If they finish 8-9, he's back. But then you have to question if Tua comes back, and you also say to yourself, okay, this was a transition year. We cleaned some cap, we got rid of some people. We know we have still weaknesses on the line, the secondary, blah blah blah. This time we address those things, and we move forward. So we'll see. Again, it's not great.
It's not great at all. And what I don't understand from a positional standpoint is what they did this offseason, why they're not using the players that they are. That can be a discussion for a later time, but Darren Waller's still nowhere to be found. The secondary is incredibly banged up.
Waller's never going to play. This is Will Fuller. This is Odell Beckham. He's never going to play. These situations never work. A guy coming out that hasn't played in years never comes back and plays. It was a stupid thing to begin with. And actually,
regardless,
Jonnu Smith in that game yesterday saves that game.
Oh, 100%.
Because it's 100%. An over-the-middle threat that worked last year and would have worked last night. So that was a major screw-up by the team. Major screw-up.
100%. And you're seeing these sort of things reveal themselves now 3 games into the season. The Dolphins have yet to find a win. And you look at what happened at the end of the Patriots game. Tua takes multiple big losses and sacks right at the end of a 2-minute drill where you can try and go down and win the game. That's what happens, Chris Grier, when you don't invest in your defensive line or your offensive line, excuse me. And then, hey, Chris Grier, how about the Colts? Jonathan Taylor and Daniel Jones just passing and running the ball all over you. That's what happens when you let go of all your depth pieces like Andrew Van Ginkel and Brandon Jones and guys like Christian Wilkins, who you should have paid the money to, instead of bringing in random guys like Benito Jones or some of these other random players that you have on the D line who can't even get to the quarterback, right? They tried to fix some areas. They brought in starters who are talented, Minka Fitzpatrick, Rasul Douglas. We understand all of that. But this team is constantly on both sides of the football. And now with Jason Sanders dinged up, we could say three sides of the football, that they are always one player away from their season being over. And it just so happens the Dolphins this year already, 3 weeks into the year, have 17 players injured or on IR, the most in the NFL. And you could chalk the season over already from the jump.
They never have any luck in that regard. They always are the most injured. Look, I'll close with this. I've seen some really bad Dolphin teams. I've seen some really talentless Dolphin teams. The ones that had one win with Cleo Lemon and Chad Henne at quarterback and John Beck at quarterback and AJ Feely and a lot of terrible players. This team is not. It's not a good team. Right. They're not going to win much. All of that understood. Right. Too many holes. But there's talent on this team. They need to find ways to stop killing themselves and win some games. There's too much talent on this team to be 0-3 and as bad as they are. And hopefully, I mean, I still think they could win 7-8 games with this schedule.
I don't even know you could say that.
But it starts with Monday night against the Jets, so we'll see.
Yeah. There are final note. Then I'll get us out of here. Final note. There are three things good about the Dolphins right now. Number one, Tyreek and Waddle can still play, and it's good to see them back on the field. They have looked good the past 2 weeks. Week one, hopefully that's an outlier. This team has put up 20-plus points back-to-back weeks, and he's been finding the both of them consistently on the field. That's one. Number two, Devon Achane is great. Devon Achane is speedy. He is good. Ollie Gordon's a great backup. Devon Achane is the clear number one offensive piece that the Dolphins have right now. He's trustworthy in the passing game and in the run game. He can do it all. Number three, the defensive line is very, very good. The pass rush specifically, not necessarily the interior. I still have a lot of hope. I joked about this on X the other day as well. Jalen Phillips is the biggest contributor to the almost play category. He is always right by the quarterback.
Almost making a play.
He is always right by the quarterback. This defense will get its
just misses him.
He's always right there, and like he always falls on the ground. You're like, oh, he just got the sack. This defense will continue to grow with time. We're seeing it week by week. The pass rush is really good, and I think it will be at the end of the year what I expected it to be coming into it. It's disappointing to see everything else kind of fall apart. On that note, this has been this episode of the Suffering Sports Fan Podcast. Thank you so much for sticking around with us. We'll be back probably in a few weeks, potentially after a couple of Dolphins victories to kind of recap, hopefully more positives as the season continues. But thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.